Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started again. Thank you. For those who are sick of me, don't worry, I'll be gone in 40 minutes. So, okay, so what this is that we are, this is another panel discussion. We have two people who are virtual. We have Scott and we have Maddie. And then over here, we've got Jeff and we've got Marie. And so what we're going to be talking about today is how do you get your fundraising journey started? And these are people who all have amazing experience, but they all had to start somewhere. And so we're going to get some ideas and thoughts for them. And for some people, if you've already been doing fundraising, you're still going to get good ideas. For those who are just starting, you're going to get great insight as to what to do and how to do it. So, and I hope it's really interactive. We want people to participate and talk, and Michelle's going to help us out with the mic. So, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And Scott and Maddie, hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
So I'm going to ask everybody just to do a general question for everyone. I would like you to, I'm going to call your name, but for this part in particular, I'm going to call your name, and I'm going to ask you to talk just a little tiny bit about your background, little tiny bit. But then also I would like you to say, what was your first experience with fundraising and how did it feel? Okay? So Maddie, I'm going to start with you.
All right, so I'm Maddie, I'm 23, and I have NF1. And my story in the short version was I was diagnosed when I was 18 months old, chemo when I was 2. And then since in the last 10 years, I've had like 3 brain surgeries, spinal, 2 rounds of chemo. And starting since March of 2020, I've been on the MEK inhibitor. And then there's like other things, but that's the major of my story.
Great, thanks, Maddie. Scott,
So
tell us a little about you and what was your first experience with fundraising?
I'm Scott Saxe. I am not 23, surprisingly. So my experience, I have always, charitable giving was always something in my life from the time I can remember, and my dad was involved in organizations, and as I got older and had jobs, I was the guy who wrote checks. But I didn't really start fundraising until a friend of mine's daughter was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and accidentally found the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and I don't know, was silly enough to raise my hand and say, yes, I'll join, their walk and raise money. And I had never approached anybody before about fundraising, but I found that in 4 weeks, we raised $5,000 by me simply saying, hey, this is something that we're doing to support Valerie. Will you help? And people did. The experience was overwhelming. And I can say that, I caught the bug that day, or during that time. It was one of those things that just, it changed the perspective, and have done that, I suppose, kind of on and off ever since. I did hit a point where people turned and ran away from me when I walked into a room because I was always looking for money. But so I've learned to find some balance. But that was my first fundraising experience, was back then.
Great, thanks, Scott. Marie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Marie Jarrell. I've been fundraising for about 20 years. Most of that was with also the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And now I have my own not-for-profit. So I try to raise funds for that. And my first fundraising experience, Team in Training, is the marathon training program for fundraising arm for LLS. And I did not sign up because I was connected to the mission. I wanted to do a marathon and was like, oh, I might as well do it for a charity. This one sounds good, and they have a good program. And I had to raise, I can remember, I had to raise $3,600 to raise the money. And I didn't think it mattered. I was like, what possible difference could this be making? What possible difference could the $10 someone gave me be making? And I went to my first event, and all the Team in Training participants together raised $7.1 million. And I went, oh, that's what the $10 means. That's what $3,600 means. And then Dr. Drucker, who discovered Gleevec, which was a cure for CML, a relative cure for CML, stood up and said, I went all over the place and I couldn't get anyone to fund my research, and LLS funded my research. And then someone, I'm going to cry about it. Someone stood up whose life was saved by the drug Dr. Drucker discovered. And I went, boom. And then I fundraised for them for 20 years because I got what that meant.
That's great, Marie. How about you, Jeff?
We started fundraising 5 years ago after we went to our first symposium in Denver for our NF Hero, and we met some really cool people there, and saw this booth, people wearing all red, and there's underwear all over the place, and we're like, oh, that's pretty interesting, and we got a little bit more information on it, and ever since then we've been sort of addicted. Great cause. We've raised significant money over those 5 years, and it's really helped us with our journey, and it's also helped our NF here tremendously.
That's great, Jeff. Thank you. So the next questions I'm going to direct to people, but the whole panel can participate. And again, everyone out here can feel like free to ask questions as well. So I'm going to go back to you, Jeff, because you have a background in sales. And I'm just wondering, how did you take that life background and apply it to your fundraising?
So just about every one of my sales managers has always put like an exorbitant goal in front of us every year, it seems like. So I did that to my personal goal. And wouldn't give up on that. 3 years in, it was 3 or 4 years in, I finally hit the 25,000 goal. I also feel as though if your goal is too small, once people see that goal has already been met, whether it's through Facebook donations or some other social platform, they may not give as much, or they may not give at all. So when they see that that carrot is dangling in front of you, they may actually reach in and give a little bit more cash rather than just not or a little bit less.
Just to point to that, I think that when you do set your goals, once you set it, it's not in stone. You can move it. And so let's say you set a goal of $2,500 and you reach that within 2 weeks of when you set it, go back and up it. You can go back and up it, because that way, as you're saying, people know that there's still a need. And I think that sometimes as fundraisers, we put that goal at $2,500, we meet it, and we're just like, okay, we're done. And that isn't done, so we're not. So keep moving that goal as you go.
To your point, Pam, those goals need to be aspirational, but realistic, right?
Yes.
It may be a little unrealistic for some of us in the start, but like aspirational. Like, how do we keep pushing further to go get that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Maddie, you're good.
I know for me, like I'll set my goal at 100. If I meet that, I'll bump it to 150 or 200. I just keep bumping it up, because I've noticed if people see like they're going to go to donate $20, but they see you're $30 away from your goal, they're like, oh, I'll give her the extra 10, so she meets her goal.
That's great, Maddie, thank you. Scott, there are so many requests from so many organizations to help them, especially when you're known of being supportive and especially being known to be a good, solid volunteer. How do you make your decisions to give, and why?
That's a great question, and a tough one. And I think I'm fortunate enough to have known some people who were greater donors than I. Right, they have wealthy. So of course, the wealthier you are, the more you give, the more you, I think, get hit up for places. And so I learned early on about creating a philosophy of giving, and it's something my wife and I did. It's got to be 20 plus years ago at this point, because back in the days of a landline, for those of you who remember those, right, the phone would ring all the time. You donate to one place, and everybody had your number. You get calls. Will you give to this cause? Will you give to that cause? And our answer, for the most part, was always, yeah, sure. I mean, right, there are great causes out there. There's so many great things, whether that's around health or education or veterans or pets or pick the thing. But But if you say yes all the time, you go broke very fast. And your impact may be, at least from my perspective, is kind of a little bit of less because we were spreading it out to kind of everything rather than focusing on what we believed in. So we literally sat down and created this philosophy of giving as though, it wasn't specific that, we're going to give to LLS or to St. Jude or to CTF. It was kind of a little bit more global around here are the things that we believe in, and here's where we want to make an impact as Scott and Melissa. And when we created that, we spent a lot of time thinking about it, but it really made it easy at that point for us to say no. Not that we didn't believe in your cause, but if it wasn't something that fit into our, and it was a rather broad window, but if it didn't fit into that, it was easier to say no to the unsolicited request. If it was a friend, if it was a neighbor, if it was somebody, a colleague, somebody who, we wanted to still give to, even if it was outside of our window, we would still do that. But our focus shifted into really what we believed in. And that's now held true for the last 20 some odd years. Over time, we've probably made a couple of adjustments to that. We've gotten older. We've, some of our causes have changed a little bit, but overall, we've stayed with that kind of core focus, and it's been impactful for us, and it's been easier for us to really focus our giving dollars.
That's great, Scott. Does anybody else have anything to add into that? Marie, with you, like you said, you have your own nonprofit that you started. It's called Sunbow. And could you tell us a little bit about that, but also how are you using social media to make that happen?
Sure, thanks, Pam. So the Sunbow Foundation, a sunbow is the spectrum of color that comes when the sun emerges after the rain has ended. So most of the time what you see in the sky is actually a sunbow, not a rainbow, because rainbows are when it's still raining. And that's basically what we try to be for people. We try to calm the storm and bring out the sun, and just kind of, and what that means in practical terms is we help people. We just help people in a bunch of situations. It's very broad. You don't have to be sick, although a lot of times people are. We just get people out of a crisis. And the general thing is we help people who don't get help from other places, number one. And number two, we try to solve a problem with a relatively small amount of money. So we've saved, I think, 6 or 7 homes at this point where people only needed a couple $1,000s, that kind of thing. But to answer the question about social media, so back when I started fundraising for LLS, it was with a chisel and a rock, right? You're sending out, mailing things and waiting for a physical check in the mail, and it was like Christmas when you got that. And my entire charity, it's been around for about 6 years. And if not for social media, I don't know that the Sunbow Foundation would even exist. Because literally 100% of my fundraising is on social media. I have not done any events like for LLS. I did garage sales and celebration of life and massage parties and all these events, and I don't even do that for the Sunbow Foundation. What I do is I do have a Sunbow Foundation page, my own page on Facebook, and we're still working on the actual web page, is still a placeholder, and I have my personal page, and I have a lot of altruistic friends, and they actually got my foundation going. It also would not have happened without them. But what I do is I tell the stories of who they helped, and I tell them back to them of what you did with this, because it's very one-on-one. So for an example, last 2 weeks, another friend from Team in Training actually went to Krakow, Poland, to volunteer to help the Ukrainian refugees in Poland. And I just thought that that was cool. And they were buying people shoes and underwear, the Ukrainian refugees. So I literally just went on my page and said, hey, here's a great opportunity to do something really cool. This is what we're doing. So that was the first thing, to tell them what specifically their money was going to, right? And then after it happened, I said, I always say this whenever I have a story, do you know what you did today? You might have thought you were at a conference just listening to other people talk, but do you know what you did? You just supplied 200 pairs of shoes to Ukrainian refugees. You rock. So I just try to tell the story of exactly what their money is doing, number one, and then come back and tell them that they did it. This is what you did. So in your case, or when I was fundraising for LLS, Pam and I were just talking. In the seminar just before this, we heard story after story after story. I'm like, I'm in. And what do you want me to do for the MF Summit? But you don't have to just tell your story. You can tell the person next door's, you can tell every story. My son's story, but this person's daughter's story is this. And just keep telling those stories and say, and get them out on social media all the time.
Well, Marie, I think that's one of the things you do so well, is, right, you use social media, to your point, right, almost exclusively, but it's not always like the ask, right? It's not always, hey, here's a way you can help, give me money. It's, here's a story. And a lot of your stories are just celebrations of good deeds that have happened out there. And it's a way to engage your audience that when there's not like between the asks.
Thanks, Scott, for remembering that I do that.
You're terrific at that. Like, it really is it's an engaging thing that keeps everybody kind of tuned in, and you highlight the good in the world in a time where, there's not enough of that. And then we get to feel more impactful when we give, because you're sharing, like, we know what you're doing with that. And I think you get more people to participate, just because it's not always that constant ask for money. There's so much more to Sunbow than that.
That's great. Maddie, you have raised $95,000 to end NF. Can we get a round of applause for that? $95,000. He's 23 years old. Come on. Maddie, what's the hardest thing about raising money to you?
Just like finding like the ways, because in the beginning, so how after the last 2 or 3 years is like when the big chunks came in for us. There was like that like extra stuff that we did on the side, like we've done like dying donates, and in the end, like I don't really have words. Like, it's great. Like, I'm surprised we've raised that much in the last couple of years.
It's pretty amazing, Maddie. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. Jeff,
Well,
what advice would you give to somebody who is just starting to fundraise and maybe doesn't have a sales background?
It's a good question. Find your personal statement, find your story, connect with those people that maybe you have given to previously. Look at your best friends, look at your company. Look at your favorite restaurants, bars. You're supporting one of our biggest donors. They donate $1,000 every year, and it's just a cooking school. But we support them. We supported them during the pandemic, and they, were glad to give us that money. We have a lot of other friends that some are wealthy, but it doesn't matter the wealth. As we all know, sometimes you're wealthy because you keep your money. But there's also spreading the word. I hate to say like the pyramid scheme, but you sort of, hey, can you go out and get 2 of your friends to donate $10? This is the story. Tell them, you don't have to use verbatim, but reach out to them and let them know that you know a friend, because I guarantee you that person knows somebody who has this condition.
And that's a really good point. And I think the other good point that you brought up, both your company and your wife's company give to you.
That is correct.
And how do you make that ask to them?
We're both pretty nice people.
There you go.
And when you have, I think we all know, when you're a good employee, they are going to go out of their way to, do that. Asking for me was easy because, again, I've worked with them. I'm a remote sales rep, but it's a family company, so that was really simple. My wife Ruby's company at that point was a family-run company, so they understood that the dynamic of the family aspect. If you work for a corporation, a lot of that type of stuff is tax deductible, so it's a write-off for them. So even though they may not have as much skin in the game, as a family-run company, they still get that tax credit, which, let's face it, that's what a lot of those bigger companies are going to look at.
And I think the other thing that's good about especially corporations is that many have matching gift programs. And I know personally, there are too many times I've left money on the table because I have not tried to really push for those matching gifts. And sometimes, to be honest, it's kind of a pain to do. There's a lot of paperwork and stuff to do with it. But I do encourage you, when you're talking to people who are contributing to your cause, to whatever event you're doing or however they're supporting you, ask them, does your company do matching? And you might find that you're going to get a lot more out of it. And some companies, so the Granger, which is a company here, they matched 3 times the gift, okay? So it started out as 25 and now it's 100. So just kind of keep that kind of stuff in mind, because I think that will help as well.
Pam, can I jump in
Yeah.
for a second again too? Sorry, it's hard being remote, but I just want to touch on 2 things. I mean, something that both Jeff and Maddie were talking about. So first, like with Maddie and the money that she's raised, I think it's important to recognize that it's not all. But you get, like Jeff said, he's got his biggest donor is $1,000 donor. Well, maybe you have your biggest donor is a $25 donor, but it adds up over time, right? Look at how much you've been able to raise little by little over the course of time that you've been fundraising, right? So it's great when you can bring in $100,000 at one event or, in one fell swoop, but it's also great when you can bring in $100,000 over the course of time and continue to do that, small donors, large donors, and everybody in between. It's that consistency that really, makes a difference there.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I just want to pick
No, go ahead.
right, Craig. Most of my donors have been like no more than like 100 or like 200. It's all in like the smaller chunks.
It's amazing how much little gifts add up, when you put them all together. And then one thing Jeff talked about made me think about what I was just on a panel earlier today around effective committee chairs, and there was another one that it was in. We were talking the other day, but it was around the ask that that you were talking about, and one of the other panelists was talking about speaking fearlessly, not being afraid to make that ask, and I kept adding, it's fearless, but it's also speaking authentically, and to that point of sharing your story and sharing other stories. And I think there's an awful lot to be said around how powerful your story is to somebody, and whether that's in fundraising or it's in advocacy or kind of anywhere, just encouraging people to join your committee and to join your cause. That authenticity that you share when you're sharing your story, that the power it resonates with people. I don't care who they are. I don't care what the connection to the cause is. When you talk about something so personal like that, it affects us and it impacts us.
Great, thank you.
Pam, one more thing.
Yeah, please.
The company match is a great tidbit. My mom's credit union, way back, when we lived in Pennsylvania, they actually also do a match. So that's another thing that, just turn the rock over, see if,
Right.
there's credit unions, banks, whatever it is, they may actually have that, I think it's 75% match to 1% match. She's just throwing up gang signs now. I believe it's 75% match, 50 to 100%, whatever that number is, but they do have that match. So that's a good thing.
Yes, yeah, it really is something we forget. Yes, please. Yes.
It's not the credit union. It is, I am a retiree company. So it's the retirees committee.
Got it.
That every year, 100% is matched.
Wow.
However, 25% stays with the United Way in the county where I used to work.
Got it.
75% is matched to what we donate.
Got it. So it's yours in particular, it's through United Way. Got it.
And my retirees union.
Got it. Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. Scott, one of the first things that you started in fundraising was you started a gala on your own that raised about $40,000 a year. What are the lessons that you learned from that?
I'm crazy. Uh,
I can
I-
confirm that.
Yeah, I think the numbers went higher as time went on, but the idea behind that gala, that black tie event, was we've been fundraising for probably 5 years-ish around that time, and had realized that, like I said, that first year we raised $5,000 in 4 weeks. And I thought, well, that's great, but imagine what I can do in 52 weeks, right? It should be simple math. Well, it didn't quite work that way, right? The next year, I think we only raised about $14,000. And the year after that, we got to around 20. And then 2025 was about as high as we could go, right? $25,000 was just pushing it on any given year. And it was a battle. And so we were brainstorming around, like, what could we do that might bring in exponentially more? And, we thought about a golf outing, and then realized we live in Chicago, and weather is always a challenge. And so we went with something more outdoors. And the idea was really, it gave my wife a good excuse to go and buy a nice dress, and us to get dressed up and go out and have some fun. And so we did that. And the first year in particular was incredibly challenging, only because I put everything onto my credit card in hopes that we would get an audience. So we fronted the hotel and the band and the food, and picked the things. And about 2 weeks before, people are always RSVP at the last minute, and so we're 2 weeks out and don't have the numbers we wanted to hit. And but we said, you know what, we're going to have one heck of a party no matter what happens. But that was really the inspiration, was how do we push it to the next level? And so after that first year and all the stress with that, mind you, we didn't net nearly as much as we wanted to, but it was still more than we had netted the year before. And then I think we ran that for about 4, maybe 5 years, until like the 2009-ish timeframe. And it was as the economy turned, it made no sense to do that back then. But each year we made a little bit more. We got a little bit better at what we were doing. And, we had a good group of people around us to help make that happen. It's not for the weak of heart, but it was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Scott.
And sorry, I just have something to add to that. I always like to also think about it now is, like, it's not always like in the beginning, like how much you raise, but like who you're putting it out to there for. Because like for like my family, we're really involved in Cupids, and like I once randomly posted on my LinkedIn, and like I'm surprised I got any money from it, but I think I had like over like 3,200 views on it. So like now I see as like 3,200 more people eyes or CNF, and like maybe they'll see it again in the future and like remember it.
Well, there's a great point. And I never really, it's funny, because as I look at, our gala and what we did, we tend to always look at that from the fundraising side of it, right? How much did we bring in? How much did it cost? How much did we raise? How much netted to the organization? But if I change my lens and look at how many people were there and what they did for the organization subsequently, whether they went off and did their own fundraisers, or they continued to stay involved and engaged. I mean, the reach was so much greater probably than the money. And there are still people involved with LLS today, all these years later. I mean, we haven't done a black tie event, and it's been over 10 years, but there's still some of those participants who still give each year, even though we're not doing the event anymore.
Pam, I have something. So just an event that we did 5 times for LLS might give you some very specific take-home things. So my people are the nickel and dime, 5 and dime people, right? And galas and stuff, hadn't have people who are going to donate $1,000, but this might be something really. We did an event called Celebration of Life, and just as a way to get food donated, it's something that you could do. Within Celebration of Life, we did what was called a Taste of Life. And it took some organization and a lot of groundwork, but instead of trying to get a restaurant to donate food for 200, 300 people, we went to restaurants and said, what would you be willing to donate? A pan of mostaccioli, 10 pizzas, a tray of chicken, whatever. And we had these restaurants all over the place, and we had to have a network of people to pick them up. And at the event, it was a smorgasbord. It was just all this stuff. But it's just a very practical idea that if you don't think that you could get a restaurant to donate, that would be an idea to just ask individual people. So we only charged $25 to get in. The place donated the place, the DJ would donate the DJ, and then we would, of course, have all the raffles and the, silent auctions and all that kind of stuff. But for the food, that's a very practical idea.
That's great. Jeff, you are probably dealing with this in your professional life as well. What would you say to people who are nervous to ask about fundraising because of the economy right now?
During 2020, we actually raised more than previously. And I think it's because during 2020, I think we had a reboot, or many of us did, where going back to basics, spending more time with family, understanding the need that's out there. And I sort of, wasn't a pitch, because that's a derogatory name or aspect, but I used it in a different way to sort of like open up other people's, heartstrings, rather than just, okay, it's this, it's for NF, it's for NF. They now understood, like, oh wow, we're all going through something, whether it's eyesight, whether it's hearing, whether it's accents, whether it's, personal demons. That actually, I think the pandemic really did a reboot for us as our fundraising.
I think that there are ways that we can use those things that we consider to be very challenging right now to our benefit.
Absolutely.
And I know that personally, I'm hearing a lot from volunteers at this point. What about the economy? What about the economy? And I'm just like, let's let somebody else worry about that.
Well,
We can't do anything about it. We just need to raise money for our cause. And people are still giving. It's still happening. It's still positive. So we can't be afraid of the environment.
If I remember right, Pam, you joined LLS right around the time of the recession in 2009, correct?
Yep.
And so I remember a very similar conversation. So at the time I was the board chair in Illinois, and Pam came in as our new executive director, and everybody, rightfully so to some extent, what about the economy? The economy. That was the biggest thing going on, certainly in everybody's lives, but in the nonprofit space. And I remember this very frank conversation with Pam at one point, who said, the economy is always here. Like we can't use this as an excuse, right? There's still a mission. We still have to raise money, right? That we might approach things a little bit differently, and the effects might be a little bit different, but the economy is the economy. And in good times and in bad, there's always this need to raise money to fulfill the mission goals. And frankly, even in good economic times, there's hurricanes and earthquakes and fires and other things that distract people as well. We just have to adapt. And the economy is the economy. We still have to be able to raise the money. And so I think the ability to pivot on events and to talk a little bit differently and to be a little bit more respectful about the giving and what's important. But like we were talking about Maddie's fundraising earlier, in a bad economic time, most people still have $25. We just have to find more of them.
Right. NF is not going to be setting aside because of the economy.
And I think the golden rule of fundraising is do not make the decision for
Correct.
the person you're asking.
Correct.
Don't make the decision for your donor. If they cannot donate, they won't donate. If it's a bad time for them financially, they won't donate. But just ask and then leave it up to them. Don't decide for them. I've definitely had situations where people were offended because they weren't asked, because you're trying to be considerate, and they're like, well, wait a minute, I can give $2 or, whatever. So don't ever make that decision for your donors.
It's a guarantee they won't give if you don't ask.
That
It's
is
a definite no if you don't ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an automatic no. Marie, you outlined some reasons that you believe people give. What are those?
I think I know what you're referring to.
Okay.
So I've been talking a lot in the last couple of days is that don't, we all, want to get everyone involved in the mission, right? Please support my mission. But there's basically three groups of people who are going to donate to you. There's people who are going to donate to you because they too believe in your mission. They've heard the NF story and so on and so forth. And then there's people who are going to donate to you because they don't know anything about your cause. They don't know anything about NF, but you're their friend, you're their family, and they're going to donate to you. And then third, if you're having an event, they might just think that that's fun. Right? So people would come to our celebration of life. It was a night of dancing and raffles and whatever. They didn't know anything about LLS, they would come. So leverage either of those things or all those things together, right? If you're having a fun, bowling event or whatever it is, ask everyone you know and ask your friends who have bowling leagues to get their bowling friends to come. They don't have to know anything about NF. They don't have to know anything about you, and so on, just leverage one or two or three of those things.
Okay, so who here, anybody, any single person who has not done fundraising before? Okay, who else? Does anything scare you about it? Everything. Uh-huh. Like what? Because these guys can tell you how to get through it.
The first step.
Ask us to give.
No, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know, I don't know where to start, period.
Okay, that's a really fair question. Jeff.
Hi.
How do you start?
That's a really good question. Like I said, we started because we went to our symposium in Denver, Colorado, and we saw this booth, sort of like the one outside, with a lot of fun people hanging out.
I understand that.
Yep.
Okay, but, where do you go, like, as in, like, the steps, you go, all the, do you go, like, do you have to go to get your, do you have to,
How do you do a plan?
Yeah, so
Okay, yeah.
one thing that, if you're on social media, one thing that you can just start by doing is Facebook has a birthday donation. You can start a cause that way. So that way it's just a matter of people are, whether they're your friends or friends of friends, you see a lot of times you see that somebody donated to somebody else's page and you never met that person. That's really easy way to start. And it's a more passive way, so you're not actively asking. It's just something there. And once you start seeing dollars come through, you start getting excited and you start wanting to do more and more. And then you can start planning out from there. Then the other type of thing is asking your friends to throw that link out to their friends. And that's just a really quick and simple way. Again, passively asking rather than being in your face, because a lot of times people don't like that.
Another thing, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so another thing is you could just start with a very simple event. It does not have to be a gala. And an event sounds intimidating, but you could have a pizza party at your house, and I have my Hamilton mask on. So I had a fundraiser when Hamilton came on Disney and Disney Plus, and I'm a Hamilton freak. So I said, come on over, watch Hamilton, and we'll get pizza and everyone donate $10. Okay. So it can be as simple.
It can be that simple.
It can be that simple. It doesn't have to be, it's anything you like to do, right? If you like making craft cocktails, have a craft cocktail night. If you like garage sales, okay? So we did massive garage sales. You could do a regular garage sale, or we used to go around, oh my God, we would go around and get everyone's leftovers after their garage sale. So we would go around the neighborhood and I'd say, can I have your leftovers? They're tax deductible. You're donating them to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And you're like, sure, we don't want to take them to Goodwill or whatever. And we would have this massive garage sale and 100% of that would be, so it could be really anything. Don't limit yourself and don't think it has to be a $40,000 gala, right? It can just be the littlest little fun event.
Set a goal that's manageable for you. So if you're looking at, I would really like to raise $250. So what are some different ways that you could do that? You could do a pizza party. That would be one thing that you could do. You could do a wine tasting. You could do, I think that Maddie was talking about that she has done incentives for her team. So she's done shirts and things like that. Another very simple way, in addition to the Facebook fundraisers, is look at your email list, put your story together and send it out to your friends, talking about why you're raising money for NF and why it's important. So it can be anything as simple as inviting people over for pizza and wine to doing a gala, which I do not recommend. I don't think that's where you would want to go right now.
Yeah.
But start out, take little steps. Take little steps. You don't have to get to the end right away. Take some little steps and then you're going to find out what your comfort level is.
Well,
Does
and
it
to your
help?
point, Pam,
Okay.
We have a question over here, and actually, Danielle, you're really the person who just started fundraising last year.
Yeah, so it was kind of a response to the question too. I spent some time after my son got diagnosed knowing that I wanted to fundraise, but not knowing how to and being super uncomfortable about starting. And so I got to this place where, I don't know if anything's really going to happen to him. I don't know if he's going to need therapy. Like, do I really have to do this? And I came to just like a personal place where, if he's 20 and I've spent 15 years fundraising for something that I didn't need, someone else can use it. Like, it's going to a great place. Like, won't that be the best outcome possible? Now the story's evolved and we are definitely going to need it. So it fuels that fundraising part. But I did spend some time kind of thinking about what I felt comfortable in, because there's these endurance events and the Shine a Light Walk, and they just didn't sit with me. They weren't like what I wanted to do. CTF has a great, extensive list on their website, and it's little things, some of them, big sales, tag sales, maybe it is the gala or an ice skating night or something like that. And then along with kind of the Facebook birthday idea is that CTF will set up a website for you and process all the payments, and you don't have to do anything with the money. So it's really, really easy. So ask CTF, get in touch with them, and they'll help you through it.
The CTF is going to be great partners for you. And as we were talking about earlier, you guys have the same mission. You want the same thing. You want to end NF. And so these are going to be really solid partners with you to help you get to where is the best place for you. And Scott, I'm just going to go to you for a second, because it's something you say a lot, and I want you to explain what this means. What you say a lot is meet the donor where they are. What does that mean to you?
well, for me, it's, like everybody, like even if I go back to my story, right, it's everybody has their own reason for giving and their own things that they give to and their own capacity, and timing is everything. And, we could talk about 1,000 different things, but meeting people where they are in that journey, right? Understanding, I don't want to ask somebody who has the capacity to give $1,000 for a $10 gift. I want to make sure I'm respectful to what they can give. And by the same token, I don't want to ask somebody who can give $10 for a $1,000 gift, right? So it's really understanding that audience, and it's making sure that, I'm respectful to who they are, not just in how they give, but in how they, how they participate with me, and where they're giving. Some people want to come to the event. They don't want to just give a donation. They want to come to something. So I'm more likely to invite them to a fundraiser than I am to just ask for an outright gift. So it's really, to me, I think it's knowing your audience again, and knowing who it is that you're talking to and what resonates with them, to be able to really, not only make sure it's a respectful ask, but to do it in a way that's meaningful for both.
Thank you. How about anybody else new to fundraising, or is there anybody else that it just like scares the bejeebers out of?
Can I answer that for my wife?
Yes.
So, when we started doing the fundraising, she does not do sales. She does not like to ask. English is her second language. And we were up in Estes Park for Christmas a couple years ago with my parents and my family. And my dad used to do leather years and years ago as a hobby.
Like tooling,
What's that?
tool work?
Yeah.
Yeah,
tool work.
nice,
And,
nice.
and my wife being a graphic designer, they just sat down and started talking about, hey, why don't we make leather bracelets and we can sell them, for however much dollars, and we're gonna give. That was their way of getting into fundraising. And now Tiny Dog Leather Studio, they give 20% of all their profits to our fundraising page.
Nice.
So it's one way, as what the question earlier, how do you start that? That could also be a way of, just getting your comfort level. And, if you don't like to ask, then do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, hi. So I've been fundraising now for a few years, but I'd say I'm most scared of if I'm asking too much of people or I'm asking too frequently. So I guess how do you get over that fear where you're asking way too much or asking many times to the same person to give?
Yeah.
Any
I-
thoughts on that?
Oh, go ahead, Maddie.
I think for me, I don't say like a certain amount. I just like leave it up to what they want to donate. I think I had like, for my family, we're like, and me, like I'm big on like the Cupids and Junior board. And I know, so like around Cupids, like I'm posting a ton. And this also like around like my anniversary days for like surgery. So I'll be like 10 years ago today, XYZ, like say whatever surgery where the anniversary is. And I do like feel bad, but then I don't, because I think about like I don't necessarily do it like 24/7, like year round. It's like I chunk it up. It's like you'll see me going and towing around Cupids, and then I kind of like die off for a little bit.
I think, to Marie's point from before, right, is let the donor say no. I mean, I don't know that I would ask somebody every day for money, but, I think about like what I would want to be asked, but I don't think it hurts to ask and put the onus back on them. I mean, if it's somebody that they're gonna tell you, come back to me in a month. I can't do it right now, call me next quarter or whatever. Again, I would be respectful of it, but if you think it's appropriate to ask, it's probably appropriate to ask.
I think, I'm not sure how you're asking, if you're asking on social media, if you're sending letters or whatever, but my two suggestions would be, one is, and if you're not doing for a campaign, but you're just like, oh, I'm so into it, I want to fundraise all the time. If you're on social media, to the point that Scott said about like stories, you don't have to always ask, just keep your stories out there, right? Keep the awareness out there. So just tell, maybe this week you only just tell an NF story. Let me tell you about this great new research of this great new drug that just got approved this week for NF. It's amazing, right? And don't ask, right? And then next week tell another story and tell another story. And then in a few, then later you can go, all these great stories I've been telling you, how those great things happened to all those people? It's because of people like you who donated, right? That would be one strategy I would suggest. And the other thing, if you do events and stuff, when I was fundraising for LLS, again, it was before, I don't think I ever raised a nickel for LLS on social media. It was just always the other ways. But when you're doing events or some of these other fun things, people don't care that you're asking because they're almost paying for an event, right? Instead of fundraising. I mean, they'll probably slip you an extra $10 or something because they know it's a fundraiser. But if they're having fun or getting a product or getting a bracelet or getting, they're like, oh yeah, I'll just do each one of those separate things is fun. And that was my approach more for LLSN. I would just have different little events all the time that were fun.
And piggybacking off of that, it's in the sales world, they typically say 10% of your communication should be for sales. If you're just sell, it's a building up that wall barrier, and it's tough to break that down. And I would suggest trying to do it throughout the year rather than one specific event, because that way you're educating them, but you're also bringing them into all the different events that are out there, whether it's pizza night or whatever it may be. Instead of just 1 month of hard push, it allows it to be, you allow yourself to be a little bit more successful.
So we are about time to wrap up. I don't know if there's anything any else from the panel wants to add. I appreciate you guys so much. It's been really good information, and having the broad diversity of it was good as well, because everybody's got different experiences, and hopefully that helps everybody think a little bit differently. So I want to say thank you to the panel and to the time that you have given to us. I also want to say thank you to all of you for everything and for allowing us to be with you, and go out and raise money. It's really possible, and it can happen. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.